Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be taking a look at and discussing the results of the poll that asked, what did you think of the 5th episode of Skeleton Crew? I'll also then be reading and responding to a few of the comments that have been left on that poll. And so, getting right to it, we'll see that 30% of people said that this was a good episode and or they enjoyed it. 6% said it was okay and or enjoyed it for the most part. 1% then said it was bad or didn't like it. And then 64% said, I'm not watching the show. And not to dismiss them, they are the majority here, but when we take away the 2/3 of people not watching and look at the results of those who are watching, or the ones who actually did watch this episode, turns out about 81% said it was good and they enjoyed it. 16% said it was okay for the most part and liked it. And then there was about 3% who said this was a bad episode that they did not enjoy. And these are, again, not dismissing the 64% that didn't watch, but these are pretty impressive results. This was a very good episode, in my opinion, the best episode of the show so far. Pretty much the perfect episode for the series, I thought. It felt complete, it felt longer, it was longer, I should say, than the previous episodes, which I think helped a lot. It had the right amount of humor, it had the right amount of action and adventure, it had intrigue. It had a progression of the plot and the characters. It had everything that you want out of a middle episode in a series, really. It ended with a cliffhanger of sorts where we are like, well, now what happens? And one of our characters, of course, Jode Nanawood, and spoilers ahead, but he has turned on the kids. He has sort of embraced his selfishness, his dark side ways, and we will see where that goes. I was surprised he turned on the kids. It was a good surprise. I think the series needed him to be more of a wild card than the scoundrel with a heart of gold, which we've seen that before. So glad he did not side with the kids, and who knows what happens next. And quickly going back to that 64% not watching, that number, 60-some, 2/3 roughly of the people who vote, has remained pretty consistent across all the episodes so far. It's gone from anywhere from, I think, 66% on the first poll to 63 on one. So again, it's about 2/3 of people not watching who are voting in the poll. And I am keeping that here in order to sort of, well, see if that number changes as the series goes on. And because with roughly 2/3 of people not watching it, that is, as I said, that's the majority. So if I don't include that option, and people have said, well, why are you continually putting that option in there? But if I don't put that in there, a lot of people who are not happy with Disney Star Wars, shall we say, are simply going to vote a bad show even though they're not watching. So it's a way to just get some honest results all around. Alright, and before moving on to the comments, let me just once again say thank you to everyone who votes, comments, or watches these or any of my videos across both the channels. I very much appreciate all the time some people take to each and every week. I see your names in there, I see you posting great comments, and of course I only can pick a handful essentially. So I do appreciate the people who each and every week are answering these questions or leaving comments in my videos, which I do read. I do read as many comments as I possibly can. I read the vast majority of them, even if I don't respond or do anything else, but I do read them. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking, again, the time to let me know what you think and let me know kind of the state of Star Wars, right? What we all are thinking about it. Also, a huge thank you to those who support my channels over on Patreon. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that so much as well. And now, on to some comments here. Starting, as we always do, with the top-rated one, which comes to us from Mimicris, who said, I haven't started watching this show yet, but since many are praising some parts of the plot, surprisingly, I might give it a chance when all episodes are released. And yeah, we are a little over the midway point now. We are 5 episodes down with 3 to go, and I would highly, highly recommend watching it if you are someone who is interested in watching it. I'm not going to say that you should go subscribe to Disney Plus if you hate Disney Star Wars and you don't want to give them your money. I completely understand people who fall into that category, who say they are done and don't ever want to give them a chance again. But if you are someone who still has hope, if you are someone who doesn't hate Disney that damn much, and you want to just watch some good, solid, fun Star Wars, it's not the most profound show ever. This isn't Andor on that level, in a manner of speaking. It is the fun equivalent of Andor, I would call it, which does not mean it is a completely childish show. I see people get mad because I say this is more of a kid's show. That is not meant to be any sort of an insult. It is just a more family-friendly style show instead of something that is, again, more grim and harsh like an Andor. but it is that damn good in its own way. It is Andor good for a family-friendly show, let's say. Moving on to this one from Booker Lee, who said, "Don't forget all roads lead to the sequel trilogy." And yeah, that is true. I understand that the sequel trilogy, for a lot of fans, the fans who did not like it or really did not like it, is kind of like a looming shadow over everything they do, especially in relative proximity to it, which this show is. The show is 25 years out or so from the sequel trilogy. However, I would say that so far, and I don't think that is going to change, despite there being these rumors, or should I say theories out there that this was all a plot by the Sith and all that. But I don't think there are, shall we say, any connecting roads to the sequel trilogy. I think this is its own thing entirely. I don't think there was any desire to even necessarily connect it to other parts of the Mandoverse, which it is, of course, a part of. So I don't see there being some sort of big twist at any point where, oh, this connects to the sequels. Joe Nanawood is a Palpatine clone, which is a theory I saw out there. I think this is just meant to be its own fun, solid show in and of itself, a complete story in and of itself, not something that has all kinds of paths that lead off to the sequels or anything else. And though, again, I understand that the sequels are that looming shadow, this really has nothing to do with that. And I think the likelihood of Disney ever retconning the sequels is pretty low, so it becomes a choice between, do you find a way to deal with things that are Star Wars that exist in the same timeline as the sequel trilogy, but are good in and of themselves, or do you let that continue to ruin your enjoyment of a good show? That is 100% up to you. Okay, and now we move on to this one from Captain Phoenix, official YouTube, who said, "I'm just so glad we have an actual variety of aliens this time. The Cthulhu one was definitely a pleasant surprise." And I absolutely agree. That has been one of the most refreshing things about this show, is that it feels like it is taking place in an alien galaxy, because we get lots of different types of aliens. There are some we've seen before, like the Hutt appearance. There are ones we have never seen before that are crazy and cool, like the Cthulhu one you're mentioning here. And just in general, in the background, there are always aliens, there are always strange things about, and it just feels like Star Wars in that respect. That is something that is sorely missed in a lot of the other shows, and even Andor, which, as you know, I love Andor. The one complaint I really have about that show is there could be a bit more alien to it than there is. Alright, and now we move on to this one from Govant, who said, "I'm going to be honest, I came into this show already not liking it due to the trailer. However, it has been a pleasant surprise. The plot and the characters are well thought out, and the creators are focused on telling a good story. I am interested to see what happens from week to week, and it's been a while since a live-action Star Wars show has held my interest like this. I just hope they land the plane well." And yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't know that the trailers really got me super excited for it. I had my fingers crossed after seeing them. I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a fun show. Again, using that fun, kid-friendly, family-friendly show term, which it essentially is. But I didn't see it being anything really more than that. I was kind of hoping that, okay, I'll just watch it. I won't hate it. It'll be benign. It won't mess with the lore or anything crazy like that. It won't try to connect to the sequel trilogy or do this and that. It'll just be what it is, and it'll be fine for what it is. And it turns out it's been really, really good, actually. And yes, there is 3 episodes to go, but I don't really see it just completely falling off the rails at this point. I don't think it's going to just be terrible in the final 3 episodes after being so good the first 5. Now, sure, it might have trouble sticking the landing, but I'm actually kind of hopeful that the landing will be something unique and interesting again, because Jode hasn't simply been the bad guy who meets kids and falls in love with kids and then turns into the good guy by the end with a heart of gold all along, that sort of thing. He is just a selfish, not so good dude. And even if at this point he does kind of have a change of heart and helps the kids, at least he had a point in the middle there where we really were calling into question just what he was going to do. And it isn't going to surprise me if he stays the bad guy. In other words, this isn't extremely predictable, which is the problem with a lot of family-friendly type shows. You know exactly where it's going before it begins, and that really hasn't been the case here. There have been twists and turns, not to mention the mystery of Ad Hatton is pretty dang intriguing, and I'm just curious to see, even if it is not a perfect 10 landing, I'm curious to see how this will all wrap up. Alright, and speaking of Jode, and we're going to do one final question here, but we have this one from Mirage Wizard who said, I get the impression that Jode is an ex-Padawan who survived Order 66, but he's lost his way and no longer follows the Jedi Code of behavior, even if he still has the Jedi skills and whatever small, undeveloped connection he had to the Force. I get the impression that he now uses the Force for whatever he wants, like a dark Jedi. And I don't know that he's going to be a dark Jedi per se. I get the impression he really does, as you kind of suggest here, he kind of has some undeveloped connection to the Force, that it is kind of as the years have gone on and he hasn't got any additional training, because I do think he was a part of the Jedi Order at some point somehow. But I do think his connection to the Force has faded. He can move stuff with the Force. That's about all we have seen him do. He might have a few other tricks up his sleeve, but I highly doubt he is now going to take that lightsaber and be a dark Jedi per se. That he's going to kick some major ass with the Force or anything quite like that. We do have to make sure the kids still can kind of compete with him in a manner of speaking, if you will. So if he is super powerful suddenly, I don't really see, and it wouldn't be believable for the kids to really thwart him in the end, if that is what turns out to happen. But anyway, yeah, I do think at some point he was in the Jedi Order. I think he was a youngling. I saw someone suggest maybe he was kidnapped by pirates instead of just being another survivor of Order 66. And I like that idea. I like the idea that he isn't just another Jedi to survive Order 66. Not that plenty of them out of the 10,000 Jedi, not that they were all still alive when Order 66 happened, but there were tons and tons of Jedi, and I'm sure a good number actually did survive. I don't think having a few here and there surviving it ruins Order 66. But anyway, I kind of like the idea that he was kidnapped by pirates. I know that kind of sounds like Star-Lord, Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think it's a good idea. I think it makes sense. I think it makes more sense than he survived Order 66. I think there would be more trauma or damage there when it came to the Jedi, and he seems to be more or less just over all that. He's taken what he remembers about attachments and so on and kind of twisted them to fit the life he now lives, and I think that's pretty good. I think he has been a great character. I think all the characters have been pretty damn good. And like I keep saying, I think this is a pretty dang good show that hopefully more people in time will watch. Well, that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you thought of this 5th episode of Skeleton Crew, or tell me if you are tempted to watch it, if you are someone who hasn't been, or if you still have no temptation to watch any Disney Star Wars. Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below, let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.